Hi class, my name is Katherine Pinkham, and I know what it is like to be in the shoes of somebody who has suffered from a mild traumatic brain injury, or a TBI. Last June, I was in a car accident, and a following week after the car accident, I was diagnosed with a mild concussion. So I'm going to share with you some of the obstacles and challenges that I have endured with my own TBI and what it has been like to have a mild concussion. One of the hardest things in the first couple weeks suffering from my mild concussion was getting up in the morning. I am the type of, before the car accident, I was the type of person that would just jump out of bed, and within the first couple days I could not wake up in the morning. I was constantly hitting my snooze button 15-20 times just to get out of bed. When I would get out of bed, many times throughout the day, when I would stand up, I would get very lightheaded and dizzy and nauseated. And that happened numerous times throughout the day. About a week after the accident, the migraines started. Severe, 24/7, debilitating migraines. And the doctor, or my neurologist, prescribed me amitriptyline and then ibuprofen 800. And the migraines were so bad that I was constantly putting on my shades, even in the house. And I could not go outside without them. About a week after the accident, I started developing a stutter, which was due from the mild concussion. And I had a very difficult time with just processing information. The stutter, I don't have the stutter anymore, but I still have sometimes trouble finding the correct words. And that is still with me today. It was a lot worse months ago, but for example, somebody would ask how I'm feeling, and I would say, well, I'm feeling, gosh, I can't think of the word. And it would become so frustrating, it would make it worse. Other things that occurred as about a week after and continued was my memory was just very messed up. I had problems with recalling numbers and information, and lack of retaining any information. And I still have problems with this today, but it's not near as bad. In fact, when I started the semester in the fall, I opened my first book since the car accident, and I was reading the very first chapter, and I didn't remember anything the first time I read it. So then I read it again. Still could not recall any information. Did it again. Still could not recall the information. And then the fourth time, I gave up. So that is when I called Salisbury University's disability department, and I got on disabilities. What happens to a lot of people, even with mild concussions, is something called a post-concussion syndrome. And basically it is when the symptoms just continue in a vicious cycle. The anxiety, the depression that I had, it continued to get worse. Therefore, my symptoms became much worse. So actually, even after 3 months, due to this post-concussion syndrome, my symptoms became very, very bad. Some of the things that I would do that was very untypical of me was I would stop somewhere, get out of my car, and leave my car keys in the ignition and leave the car running for hours, forgetting my keys were in the ignition. Something else that I continued to do due to the post-concussion syndrome with the anxiety and the symptoms getting worse is anytime I would leave my house, I would leave my door wide open, forgetting to lock my door. Another thing that I was not allowed to do due to doctor's orders was play video games with my son, which made it very difficult on him, and or watch television. I was supposed to let my brain rest and not do anything that was going to overstimulate it. And plus with the migraines, that type of stuff made it much worse. So right after this car accident that I was in and the concussion, I never felt the same, and I still don't. A year later, I'm retaining information and recalling information, I'd say about 90%. The doctor told me that my brain may never function the same again, but I remain positive and hopeful that it will, and I'm pretty close to it, so I'm okay with that. So this is what it's like to live in the shoes of someone who's had a mild traumatic brain injury and or someone that has suffered from a mild concussion. So I was thinking about how it would be to walk in the shoes of a survivor of someone with a severe traumatic brain injury, and how many of those people have to relearn how to eat, walk and talk, and I feel that my mild concussion just simply does not compare to these people, and I have the uttermost admiration for those who have to overcome the more severe types of TBIs and the more difficult challenges they have to face. It is really hard to imagine what it must be like to walk in their shoes.